I'm going to start by playing you my theme song that I got made. And it's very stupid.
Okay.
This is James Malcolm Reviews James Malcolm, a podcast where your host, James Malcolm, reviews James Malcolm. As a gay icon and stand-up comedian, James Malcolm has had his share of comedy reviews, like this one from the spinoff.co.nz.
If I'm honest, I did sleep through James Malcolm, so I just cannot comment on what they did.
But now it's time for James Malcolm to review every part of himself and see what he discovers. Here's your host, James Malcolm.
Hey guys, welcome along to James Malcolm Reviews James Malcolm. As you heard in the very silly intro, it's where I, James Malcolm, review myself, James Malcolm, every aspect of my personality. This might be the first episode or it might not be. I'm not sure what order I'm releasing these in, but my guest today is one of my very close friends for now. We'll see how the podcast goes. And also an amazing comedian. She won the 2017 Raw Comedy Quest and has achieved a lot more since then that I don't have time to know. But be rest assured, it's a long list. And we are... we are recording remotely because of the old COVID-19. But thanks for joining me, Ruby.
You're welcome. Strong start, strong intro.
How are you feeling about reviewing me? How you feeling?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I've got some notes.
Great, we love notes.
But I don't think I'm gonna hurt you.
Okay. Cool. You might, and hey, that's okay. That's part of the podcast, and you have amnesty. So now's a great time to use it.
Oh, maybe I'm gonna write some more down. Hang on.
All right. So if you were writing a review on James Malcolm the person, what do you think the headline would be?
Put a lot of thought into this. James Malcolm, immoral comedian reveals would never cheat at words with friends.
Wait, sorry, immoral?
Yes. So I think there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree.
So my headline comes with levels. Okay.
Level. Okay. Yeah. As all classic headlines do. Gone are it's not like a headline is supposed to capture your attention or maybe, give you the gist of what you're going to be talking about. That's not the route Ruby Esther has gone.
That is old news.
Ruby Esther's gone for inside jokes and layers. Please peel back these layers.
Yes. Now, I don't mean immoral in the traditional sense.
That's great.
I think when people first meet you, they're a little taken aback. I think people get the wrong idea about you because you're quite, extroverted. And obviously, your comedy is quite, dirty. And I think a lot of people sort of tag that onto you as a person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that, one, I don't think I'm an extrovert. I appreciate that I appreciate that I do often project that, particularly on stage and also, in my social life. But I genuinely think
so the two main places.
Hang on.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, that's fair. But what I would say is that when I am very social. I'm not saying I'm an introvert. I think I'm an extroverted introvert or introvert extrovert or whatever. Yeah, because I am all those things. I'm a lot when I'm out, and I am very act like an extrovert. But when I'm at home, I need my own space. And in living with people and flatting and stuff has really taught me how much has made me reevaluate that extrovert label, because I live with an extrovert now, and he would quite happily, and I've lived with extroverts in the past, he would quite happily hang out from the time we wake up to the time that we go to bed, unless, apart from doing our own things during the day.
Yeah.
Whereas I need my own time in the morning
For sure.
and need my own time at night. So I think I've got that introverted side to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So I think that's like another thing, like people associate you as like this loud extrovert who's, just a lot more open than a lot of other people. And I think that gets tagged onto you. But then like when you become your friend and you get to know you and you play words with friends with you, you realize that you have like basically very strong morals. It's like, so what I've done with that headline is subverted your expectations. So
wow, that's a really great, you've really played with the form.
I just think that like you have very strong morals about like even the tiniest of things, like words with friends. Like you would get so frustrated during words with friends. But
over what though? What were you
over
frustrated over?
over me absolutely killing you in it.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were bringing up. But how is that morals?
No, I think like you feel things very strongly, I think.
Yeah,
And
I'm very emotional.
yeah, so like on one side of the scale, you love words with friends so much. But then on the other side, you don't love it enough to cheat because you feel very strongly that is wrong and no one should ever cheat. And being honest is most important.
Yeah, I cheated once at Words with Friends, remember, and I told you immediately.
Exactly, yeah.
I cheated, and then I was like, I just cheated.
Like you wouldn't be good at cheating.
I did a bad thing, Ruby. I did a bad thing.
I'm a sinner.
It's just making me think. Sorry, 2 seconds. Just pause to interject. Were you playing the game the other? We were playing a game at Games Night the other day. I can't remember if you were in this games night or not. We've been doing like virtual games nights throughout the pandemic, and we had one where there's this game where you have to sort people into like what personality type they are.
Yeah.
And the round was the 7 deadly sins. And were you playing that?
I was playing that, yeah.
Yeah. And do you remember James Musterpick saying, gee, a lot of these sins fit James Malcolm? It just really made me think of that. Okay, here's my question. Do you think my comedy projects a bad person? Like, do you think that if you watch my comedy that persona is bad? Because that's sort of what you're implying, right? That like that they meet me and they see that I'm different, which implies, right?
It's not like bad. It's not like people would watch you and be like, "Oh, what a terrible person." It's just like a slightly more. I think when people watch your comedy, maybe on stage, they see you as like just a little, like very, very liberal and very, very out there. So like, it is.
Yeah, we can talk about it because for people who haven't seen my comedy, it's very hypersexual.
Yeah.
It's very, very gay.
It's very funny.
Thank you. I mean, that's I didn't want to say it myself, but thank you.
Waiting for you to chip in.
Yeah, it's very full on though. Usually, very dirty, which is not actually that reflective of my real life. I'm actually like not a super sexual person outside of comedy, and I think that's actually a lot of the time why I joke about sex so much, because it's actually a side of life that I find a lot of comedy in because it's so uncomfy and so awkward and weird to me. Not that I don't enjoy sex, I do, but I do find it as one of the more like uncomfortable, awkward sides of life, which is why I think I draw comedy from it.
Yeah, they're making a judgment purely on like your absolutely filthy comedy.
Yeah, that's fair. If you were to describe me to someone who hasn't met me, someone who might enter our friend group or a comedian who's just started, and they were like, oh, who's James Malcolm? And you were to describe me to them, how would you describe me?
I would describe you as initially a lot. But very, very sweet and well-intentioned and very funny. Yeah, I think the way to describe you is to almost brace people initially. Yeah, I think that's how I felt when I first met you. But I mean, now obviously you're one of my closest friends. And
How did you tell me more about how you felt when you first met me?
I knew of you because, like you, I did the Class Comedians program, just a comedy program we have in New Zealand. And yeah, when I was doing that, I was watching videos of you on YouTube, like endlessly. And I was like...
Endlessly watching videos on YouTube, which means at that time was watching the same video repeatedly.
You joke, but yes. I was like, God, he's so funny. He's a little sweetie.
I don't really think that. Oh man, it's weird to think that people would do that. So thank you.
I'm only friends with you because I'm a longtime fan. But yeah, so then when I first met you, I was, to be frank, scared.
Wow.
Yeah, I was scared of you because I thought you were really cool. Like when I saw you doing comedy, I thought you were really, really cool, really good. But then, yeah, I also got that like extroverted kind of vibe from you because you were always with like a big group of friends. You always seemed like kind of the leader of the pack, I guess. That being said, you were always like so sweet to me. Like you introduced yourself to me. It was so sweet. You'd always like make an effort to like include me in conversations and stuff because I was, new to the comedy scene and stuff.
You were new to the scene, and I think I saw a lot of talent in you, which I still do.
You little cutie.
Well, that brings us into the fun part, my favorite part of the podcast, which is, so in a review, obviously you have your pros and your cons. Well, where do you want to start?
I mean, do you prefer like good news or bad news first?
I don't know. No, let's do good news first.
Okay, good news first. I think you are very inclusive.
Thank you.
And I really like seeing that in a person. You give people opportunities to like open up and stuff.
Yeah, and this might be jumping the gun a little bit. I might be stepping on one of your cons, but I think that maybe a con you might have found, if I could predict early, is that once I've included you, you can never escape.
Okay, yeah, you might be stepping on something there.
Okay. Next pro.
Very sensitive to others, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, not to get like too serious or anything, but you've definitely been there for me when
Oh boy. Can't talk about that on the podcast.
On a roller coaster that only goes down. But yeah, no, you and I, like, in a weird way, those are some of my like fondest memories of you. It's just like you digging me out of a hole.
Bathrooms.
We don't need to pinpoint locations I've cried.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Fun. I know that's very generic, but you're just like a very fun person to be around. I think because you can have friends who are like inclusive and compassionate and all that rubbish, which is great to have those kind of friends. But then, yeah, I think it's really important as well that you can like flip that switch or even have like a middle ground where you're like, yeah, you just make things fun and are always down for a fun little time.
Right.
Yeah, I think those are like my top 3 that I was like thinking about.
Cool. I'm happy with that. I mean, if that's the only good things about me, then I mean, I can't force you to think of more good things about me, Ruby. Like, it's totally fine if those are. And then you bring out the list of bad things, and I bet it's 10 things.
Onto the stuff I need to work on.
Okay, if that's your list, that's cool.
Oh my God, no. Obviously, there's more than 3. There's like so many.
I'm just wondering.
There's like, that
there's
other
so
one.
Many like, and the thing you do.
That thing I mentioned the other day. Love that about
Remind me, what was that thing?
God, you're just a little cutie, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I'll take that.
I I was, coming up with like things to pinpoint and like put on this and stuff. And I genuinely found it very hard to like not in a bad way, but break down. No. Let me finish. James Malcolm. Shush.
I genuinely found it hard to think of things.
No.
This is really funny.
I genuinely found it very hard to like cut into pieces the parts of you that I like, that I adore, because I like when I think of the good things of you, I just think of you. Like,
Oh, that is really sweet.
yeah, I love you, man.
All right. Oh, I love you too, Ruby. For now, but we do move into the part of the show where that potentially all crumbles.
Yeah, that was me buttering you up.
And that is the part of the show where, just like in any review, you have the good things about the thing, and then you have the bad things about the things that James Malcolm could improve on, James Malcolm maybe can't improve on, but is just a flaw of himself that will never be fixed.
Oh my God, James. Okay, so I think, since you mentioned it before, why not start with that one? On the other end of your inclusivity is entrapment, perhaps.
That's a really funny way of putting it.
Because it feels like an honor to be accepted by you, to be included. Really does. But I think sometimes if someone maybe doesn't feel like going to games night,
mm-hmm.
you could be more okay with that.
I have thought about this. I think it is that. I don't really know. I think that I am very, you're right. I am very aggressive when people in my group little group I curate, don't want to hang. Recently, I was talking to someone about how I don't like Wellington very much. Sorry if you're listening from Wellington, because I found that Wellington is really cliquey. And it's really hard to make friends there because everyone's already in these cliques. And if you're not in the clique, you're fucked, sort of thing. And someone said to me, Auckland's exactly the same, James. You're just the head of one of the cliques. and I'd never thought about it like that before. Like they were like, you're the Regina George of a clique, which I never really thought of, but every time I tell that story to someone, they tend to agree. Would you agree?
Well, now I'm questioning like whether you are genuinely inclusive, or I just feel like I was one of the ones that was picked.
No, I think I am inclusive, but I also think I'm very I'm inclusive. Well, yeah, I don't know, actually. Now that you mention it, I am inclusive of people. I mean, I'm not inclusive to everyone. If I don't like them, I have to like a person.
I would stick to the pro that you're inclusive, because
you haven't got that many, so you can't be taken anywhere.
It's not, get rid of that one. No, because thinking back on it, if we're ever hanging out at the Classic or wherever, and someone starts up a conversation, I think, I've seen people be quite rude and quite blunt and not engage with a person who's trying to say hi or anything like that. And I think you're so far away from ever doing that. It doesn't mean they're gonna come to every board games night or anything, but it's just you make an effort with people, and I like that.
I think, okay, I've had trouble articulating this, but now I'm thinking about it. I think what it is, and it is I'm not saying it's not a con, I'm just explaining where it comes from. But I think the reason I get very aggressive when people from my group don't want to hang is because I put so much into that one group, and whereas lots of people have lots of separate groups, and they have friends over, I can't point, but they have friends in one, area, one group of friends they do this with, and they have another group of friends they do that with. A lot of people do that. What I tend to do is whenever I make a new friend from a different outside place, I'll draw them into the original group rather
Right.
than having lots of different friend groups.
Yeah.
I sort of just indoctrinate that person into the clique and make my clique even bigger and make them introduce them to all my friends and hope that everyone will be friends.
Okay, yeah, this is sounding less like a clique and more like a cult.
A cult? Yes. For sure. I'm not saying it's a great thing I do, but I think it probably would be healthier. There's been times where I've consciously tried to separate, meet someone in a different context to where I normally meet them at comedy or something like that. And I've tried to really work at keeping them separate because I know that it's a thing I do where I just introduce them to everyone and then they're part of the same clique. And I think that's where the aggression comes from when people can't come to board games night or can't hang out or whatever in that group, is I'm like, I've put everything into this group, and in my mind I'm very protective of the group. I'm very, very I want the group to all hang, and if the group doesn't all want to hang, then I don't always have other people to go to because I've collected everyone into this one group.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah.
And also, the other thing I'll say, because one time there was a huge conflict between us.
Whatever do you mean?
Was a time we were having games night and you said you were tired and you were going to go home, and then you went to the classic. And in my mind, I'm like, our group is so cool and is so great that who the fuck are you going to hang out with at the classic that you'd rather hang out with than us? This is what really rocks me.
Mm-hmm. I know, because you've mentioned it. First of all, I said...
Okay, for the record.
For the record, I'm feeling quite tired. I'm probably going to go home via the classic.
I dispute.
You can't, because that's what I said. So,
okay, fine, carry on.
I would totally understand you getting mad at me if I had been like, "Oh, sorry, I feel tired. I'm going home," and then was like, "Yeah, at the classic." That would suck.
In my mind, that's what happened.
I know, but it's not.
That's separated from reality.
That's something you fabricated. Yeah, I think I am one of those people that I don't have many different groups of friends. I have some friends from high school, and the majority are then just comedy friends. But I just felt like going to the classic.
Yeah, and that will forever be completely unacceptable to me.
I also want to say that was the only conflict we've ever had. And it lasted 2 days.
Oh, no. People are going to listen to this podcast and they're going to rightfully think James is a ridiculous human for not talking to Ruby for 2 days for going to the classic instead of game site. And that's correct. They're correct to think that. But that's what this podcast is about, is I'm not always going to look amazing. I'm not always going to look amazing in this podcast. That's sometimes the cons will just be ugly sides of myself. And that's fine. That's the podcast. I signed up for it.
But what was amazing was, first of all, you blocked me on everything.
Did I block or did I just unfriend?
I think you blocked. Because
no,
I couldn't.
Like to dispute.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know how technology works. You unfollowed me.
I think I blocked you on Messenger so you couldn't message me.
Okay.
But then I just unfollowed you on everything else.
Yeah. So I don't use Twitter or anything that often, so I didn't notice. And then when I couldn't message you on Messenger, I was like, oh, he must have bad reception, because it was so far from my mind that you would be annoyed at all at what had happened. And when we finally talked, I decided I'll just let him cool off. And then you apologized to me 2 days later, so it was all fine.
Yeah. I think that, look, not my finest partner. I think that things had been building up, Like, I think, anyway, it's fine. Next con.
All right, number 2. Now, this is a broader con.
I love these intros. Yeah.
So I have a problem with with cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
But you're quite a big fan of it.
No, I don't think I am.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Well, this is very interesting.
This is a big disconnect we have.
Okay.
So where do you think I am into cancel culture? What areas of my life do you think I've cancelled people?
I think I often don't get the vibe that you're into second chances, not for like people you're directly close with, but I think in the world that isn't ours of like, celebrities and icons and blah blah blah, I think I've always seen you as like into cancel culture, and I think cancel culture is like silly. But yeah, I've always associated that with you.
Interesting. I think I think the disconnect here is that we maybe have our line in the sand is just in different places. Like I'm against cancel culture it depends on your definition of cancel culture. I'm against cancel culture in terms of like here's the receipts, hunty, and and let's get this person fired and shit like that.
Uh-huh.
I think is awful.
Okay, yeah.
I think if someone does something bad, that it is fair for me to no longer want to support that person. And there are other examples where I think that like, there are times where someone's fuck ups, if they reach a certain level, deserve to be talked about and be discussed. And I think the result of that discussion can be to no longer want to support that person.
What about closer to home? Like people if someone i.e. a person did something.
We're obviously thinking of a specific person here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Where would you like what's your vibe on that, on like real life cancellations, closer to home kind of stuff?
For me, maybe that is a time where I have exhibited cancel culture in a way that is not totally in line with all of my values and how I'd love to have them. But there's a big but, which is that I think that if someone acts shitty multiple times in front of me, I don't want to be their friend anymore. And I don't want anything to do with them.
Okay.
Do you still think I do that? And it's fine if you do. I'm just wondering.
I think you do. I don't think it is as prevalent as I maybe thought it was. And obviously you have a lot more thought behind it than I guess I assumed. Yeah, I think we're like somewhat on the same page. I think in terms of celebrities, for sure, we are on the same level there. I think in like within our peers, maybe we differ a little, but I do understand also where you're coming from with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, next point.
Okay. There's also that time on my birthday
Ooh.
that you made out with my recently ex-boyfriend.
Yeah. That happened.
And we had a little argument about that.
Yeah, just a little argument.
But you basically maintained that you were in the right.
For too long. Have we ever had a fight where you were in the wrong?
No, I'm perfect.
Look, okay. So
yeah, go for it.
How do you dig yourself out of this one, James Malcolm? Look, I plead guilty to the charges.
Okay.
I am okay. The only thing I can say to defend myself, which is not even really a defense, I think that in my mind, because he was straight, it didn't seem serious.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like, because you'd been like so supportive of like the whole situation between me and him all the way through after we broke up, and you were like totally there for me. So then it was a bit like, oh, what you doing on his face?
Yeah, I think the mistake I made is that I felt like because I was gay and he was straight, it didn't feel like a serious thing. It was just like a funny, silly, stupid thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a cool thing to do. I do want to just say the very funny moment that came from that was when we were kissing, but then he pulled away and he looked me in the eyes and he said, I know you want more, but this is all you're going to get from me. It's just the most stupid, cringe thing anyone has ever said to me.
Oh my God, that's not sexy.
I mean, we stand boundaries, but like, it was just a really uncomfortable way of conveying it.
Oh, now I do.
I was like, it's also it's kind of a gross assumption that the gay guy obviously wants more out of the straight guy and isn't also just having a fun, jokey kiss, you know?
Yeah, you're right, you were the victim.
Yeah, I feel like that.
I'm so sorry you went through that.
I wanted to talk about in an alternate universe, this podcast doesn't exist because I already have a podcast with one Ruby Esther. Ruby Esther and I had planned to make a podcast together like over a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe, can we say in hindsight, maybe the worst idea for a podcast ever?
I disagree.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, look, I think it would have been a strong segment, but a whole
so
season.
the podcast we were going to do was going to be called Rainbow Friends, and it was going to be two friends, Ruby and James, each week reviewing a different ride from the popular New Zealand theme park Rainbow's End. And like the problem is, I think the problem we would have run into kind of early is that there are like 8 rides at Rainbow's End.
Yeah.
Should we review the log flume? Like, let's test your it could be a good segment theory.
I mean, that's the thing. We full on wrote notes in our phone about it.
Yeah, I don't know if I still have it or not.
Let me see if I still have mine.
Oh, I've got it. I found mine.
Oh my God, I've got it. Yeah, I've just found. All right, let's test this out.
The log flume's the most iconic one.
Yeah, that one was so fun.
Yeah. Send it over. I've written guy being sick. Which I don't remember what it was referred to. I assume someone in front of us.
I don't remember that at all.
Sick.
Yeah.
I've written got sent nudes and lines. That was a good day for Malcolm.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
I've written got very wet. Water was cloudy. Conveyor belt shipping. I don't know, what does that mean? Oh, slipping. Conveyor belt slipped a little bit.
That's a good point. That was hard to get into that log.
What were your notes on the log flume?
Okay, so first thing I wrote was guy being sick. I just have no memory of that at all.
Neither.
No, I wrote more intense than expected.
Oh, that's a good note.
Yeah. Just said that drop. Oh yeah. I wrote log skipped for sure because I remember when we were coming down, it went off the track for a little bit. Do you remember that?
I think that's what I meant by conveyor belt slipping.
Yeah, and we were like, was that meant to happen?
And what a podcast this would have been.
And my God, that was a whole 2 minutes.
And we were going to try and fill half an hour talking about each ride. All right, is that everything?
Yeah, I think that's all. Wow,
Well,
I'm tired.
Do you have anything you want to plug, Ruby?
Next year's Comedy Fest.
Look out for Ruby Esther on social media. Follow the socials.
I've got It's a Ruby Esther on the old Instagramification.
Great. And thank you so much for listening to Rainbow Friends podcast. The podcast where we review every Rainbow's End ride. And then eventually next week we'll be reviewing the Motion Master, I think. That's weirdly the one I had the most notes for. If you have a review of James Malcolm that you want to send in, there's a link in the podcast description to record your own little short review, and I'll do an episode sometime where I listen to some listener reviews and fight you all on them. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Rate 5 stars on iTunes, all that bullshit. And see you next episode.